Are insurance companies sending drones to people's houses to look at the roof, give them insurance or not? Is that actually happening?
So they have technology, which I believe is satellite technology. It's not specifically drones, but they
Okay.
do have satellite technology now that takes aerial view of your roof, and if it's not in certain condition, you're automatically ineligible.
Welcome back to the Central Jersey Real Estate Podcast. Today we're going to unpack the do's and don'ts of insurance because I see buyers and sellers who are either paying more than they need to or they have coverage that doesn't match their property. But don't worry, I've got you. I'm Joe Valenti and I'm a realtor with RE/MAX In Style. And I help Central Jersey home buyers and sellers in Middlesex, Mercer, and Somerset counties prepare for the biggest investment of their lives by talking to experts who can save them time, money, and heartache. Today, we're going to talk to my most trusted resource, another Joe and a rock star in the insurance game, Joe Gamalis, the owner of Gamalis Insurance Agency. He's going to tell you whether or not you need flood or hurricane insurance, the difference between replacement value and cash value, and some of those policy exclusions that can be tricky that you need to watch out for. All right, so let's dive in. Joe, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into the questions, give the audience a quick 30-second intro of who you are.
Yeah, my name is Joseph Gamalis. I live down at Toms River. I actually grew up in Colts Neck. Owner of Gamalis Insurance Agency. Started that right out of college, and now we're in a couple different states and growing pretty well. So got a beautiful boy at home, wife, and another baby boy on the way. So life's busy.
Awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Joe, I want to talk to you about your unique story, but first, let's hop into what's on a lot of people's minds right now, Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. If I owned a home in Asheville, North Carolina, I'm not sure I would have given enough thought to flood insurance and hurricanes. So talk us through this one a little bit. How can we in Central Jersey be well-prepared homeowners and think about disaster when it comes to hurricane coverage?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you need proper homeowners insurance and flood insurance. So a lot of maybe misconceptions or people that aren't informed don't know that flood insurance is not covered on homeowners. So if there's any flood damages due to tidal waters or rain waters, that is completely excluded from your homeowners. And with a lot of lenders, and it's not the right or wrong thing, right? But when you close on a home and you're in a what they call an X zone, for example, in Central Jersey, which is technically a low risk zone, it doesn't mean that you can't flood, right? So a lot of those areas, even in North Carolina, when's the last time they flooded? Right? They probably weren't even thinking about flood insurance, but since they were in a quote unquote lower risk. But that can change at any point in time. So something that people can think about is having flood insurance no matter what zone you're in. If you're in any type of risk, you should have it. And it's so minuscule in the cost that if something happens, it's going to pay you tenfold or more, right? And then you talk about the hurricane insurance or just hurricanes in general on your homeowners. Something to pay attention to is there's coverage for hurricane, but if you look into your policy, there's a percentage, right? So 2, 3, or 5%, and that's of your actual coverage in your house, right? So if you have a 5% of $1 million house, that's your actual deductible. That's out of pocket due to a named hurricane, which
Really?
a lot of people don't realize. See, 5%, that's not nothing. It's not broken out, but the higher
Right.
the percentage, the lower your cost, and vice versa. So a lot of insurance agents throw, oh, here's 5%, and it lowers the premium. But then if something happens, like a named hurricane that, talking back to New Jersey, what was 3 years ago? Not
Ida?
Ida, thank you. When Ida hit, a lot of those people didn't even think about that, right?
Right.
I have like deductibles 30 grand, 40 grand. And they're like, well, that's not great. So
Seriously.
that's something to pay attention to and make sure, A, it's on your policy of coverage, and then what that deductible is. So you're not, if you don't have the money, the cash sitting in the bank, then you're gonna have no coverage. So
Now,
you
is
have to
that
pay it
something?
yourself.
Are those coverages those percentages? Is that negotiated when you're signing up the client?
Yep, you can change
Okay.
it. So some companies have a mandatory hurricane deductible, which can be as low as 1%. But some
Okay.
companies just offer a standard deductible where no matter what happens, hurricane, fire, wind, $1,000, right? Which is more preferred if you have something happen. But if you're trying to save money, some people are like, just give me a high deductible. I don't recommend that, but it is an option out there. But before you sign up for a policy, those are questions you definitely should ask.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. So how do locations in Central Jersey break down as far as risk? Is it based on miles to the coast and or the flood area? And what other considerations are at play?
Yeah, so distance to the coast is a big one. So it used to be a certain. So as the years went on, it seems like the distance just gets further and further and further. So
Right, right.
every company was writing on the coast, then it was 2,500 feet, and then it was 5 miles, and now there's only in Ocean and Monmouth County. There's, if you're lucky, four insurance companies that are writing business by the coast within a 5 mile radius. So when they look at it from the flood perspective, they look at the flood mapping, which can change anytime. But for the homeowners insurance, they're looking for distance to the nearest body of water, not just the coast.
Sure.
So if you're by a
Lakes,
river, if you're
rivers.
by a stream that they count that as water, right? That could kick you out of eligibility with some of these carriers. So that's one thing. But the other aspect of it for the actual risk of the house is the condition of the house. And the biggest thing now that I've seen the last probably 2 years has been the roof. So if your roof is coming up on 20 years, or if it's 20 years plus, you're gonna have some issues. Limited options is in regards to insurance.
All right, so
So
give me some transparency here because this is kind of the word around the grapevine.
yeah.
Are insurance companies sending drones to people's houses to look at the roof, either give them insurance or not? Is that actually happening?
So they have technology, which I believe is satellite technology. It's not specifically drones, but they
Okay.
do have satellite technology now that takes aerial view of your roof, and if it's not in a certain condition, you're automatically ineligible. I actually had one of my clients got non-renewed by an insurance carrier. I won't name the name. The whole reason was because 99% of her roof was perfect, but there was a little balcony or a little like a sun porch on the back end that had a metal roofing and automatically ineligible, right?
Really?
Yeah,
So
I even
they
had one of my
somebody just
buddies
stopped
send a
them?
drone over and did an entire drone of everything of the house and sent it to him like, "Hey, the house is perfect." And they're like, "Nope, this little piece is metal. We don't want it." Like, oh,
So what did the owners do? Like, help me understand it. Like, I remember my clients in Tom's River, we closed, I think, September, October of last year. And I sent them over to you because they were having trouble getting insurance. And there was an insurance company blocks away that would refuse to give them insurance. Like, what does an owner do if they're getting denied for something like that?
you got to work with someone that has multiple carriers and options,
Okay.
because if you're just working with someone that just has, one of these standard companies where it's just one company can write, you're limited. So working with a broker that has options to multitude of companies, they can go and search. If someone says no, okay, where else can we go? And my team, when we work with someone like your clients, we shop out to every company we represent, which is pretty much everyone except maybe three or four that don't appoint independent agents like myself. But we look at everywhere because not everyone has access. So I'm lucky in the sense that, or fortunate in the sense that I was able to get direct appointments with carriers that some insurance agencies weren't able to get, or they shut off new access to them at some point because they're not. A lot of these companies aren't taking new agents. So it's
Interesting, interesting.
yeah,
So
working with the right person is really important.
So they're better off going to somebody like yourself who's a broker and can contact many companies versus like, hey, I'm going to call State Farm or Geico or something like that,
Correct.
and
Yep.
then be limited this way.
Exactly. And then State Farm also is not, as of last month. Actually, as of last week, I got a referral from an agent. I used to work for State Farm, so I can say that. But they're not writing east. They're not writing east of the Parkway in New Jersey for homeowners.
Really?
Shut down. So I've been helping a lot of
That's
other
their
clients.
dividing line is the
Yep.
Parkway.
Yep. So that's where they see the risk, and they're like, "Hey, we're not writing till further notice east of the Parkway. Any homeowners? They'll write auto. They'll write everything else." But I've been working with an agency that I actually started with when we were in college,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they've been sending me all their business, and they're great. They're great people. But we help each other out, which is cool. So
Awesome. So let's talk about your path for a bit. So we both met at Rutgers Business School. We were both transfers. We met at a meetup at the school. And since then, you've become an independent agency owner. You've partnered with New York Life. Your awards are starting to stack up. You were Rookie of the Year, MVP, President's Council. What do you attribute your early success to?
it's funny. I actually had this conversation with my wife. We were talking about where we're at and like kind of how to pinch ourselves a little bit. But I think the biggest attribute to my success has had to be my wife, because she dealt with a lot when we were first getting together, and she was going to PA school, and I was building my agency from scratch. But I think when you dial it down even further is the fact that when we were 20, like right when I graduated from Rutgers, I went right into starting my own agency. So when everyone else was going out and partying and drinking and going to the bar, we like literally the second we graduated and I decided to start on the agency, we we're like, let's go. And we didn't, yeah, we missed probably a couple fun nights and whatever and having fun, but I just worked. Like I was working probably 18, 19 hours a day. I was just working till 11 o'clock at night in the office, and it was not for everyone. It's not something you should do for a sustained period of time, but it's something I had to do to get it off the ground, right? And I think that extreme focus in the beginning, for the first 3 years of the agency, that put me so far ahead because by the time I was 25, the agency was already had a solid foundation where if I just kind of took my foot off the gas or I didn't focus, it wouldn't be where it's at today. So that intense focus and the support from Mia, that was like the two main things that really attribute to long-term success and where we're at now.
Having a solid foundation, you had a lot of support, and now you get to reap the benefits of all the support, right?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you both took a bet on yourself, and it worked
Yeah,
very
it's
well.
pretty crazy. It's I'm like, hey, I'm gonna start this agency. We just really started dating. She's like, what are you doing? Starting your own business? Yeah, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. Don't worry. She's like, okay, I'll support you.
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of a lot to ask in the very beginning of a relationship, or beginning year or so.
oh my God, yeah. And I mean, probably the best thing I did in the beginning was I set the expectation, and I set
Okay.
it very low. Meaning, like, I told Mia, and I said this like in the most, heartfelt way, but I was like, in the next 3 years, you can't expect a single gift, a single dinner, a single trip, a single anything. Because I need to just focus and everything has to be reinvested. If there's something I can do for you over the next 3 years, great. But don't expect a single thing for 3 years. And I'm like, if you're okay with that, then we can keep going here. She's like, I'm in. I'm like, okay, okay.
There you go.
And and that gave me the freedom to kind of build, and I got her something that she really wanted after 3 years. So I mean, it worked out. So well, the support was everything. If I didn't have her support, it would not have worked. There's just no way, no way.
Awesome, man. That's incredible. You don't really hear stories like that all too often
No,
anymore.
yeah, it's pretty wild. We're starting from interesting. We talk about the story and what I guess bootstrapping it too. If you want to add another thing in there too, of where it kind of took what kind of attribute to success too is the fact that I literally bootstrapped it. Where at one point I was living on my mom's one bedroom apartment. I was living on her couch, and my office was her a desk that I got from my buddy Mike when he closed his office. And I had a desk in her one bedroom living room. I slept on the couch. I was going back and forth,
Oh my
and
God.
I think my total expenses was my car and my phone. It's like if I could clear 500 a month, I can get by. It's like that's how it started. So keeping that in the back of my mind of like I don't ever want to go back there, and I can bootstrap it. That meaning like I don't need a lot of stuff to run the agency, so it makes it a lot more efficient as time goes on. But it's crazy.
Super humble beginnings, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild, but I wouldn't change it for the world. It definitely shaped who I am today and how the agency is run and the people that work for me. So it's good.
Awesome, man. So just kind of following your path on a little bit. Now you can check Joe out on Instagram at the handle Joe Gamales. We'll drop it for you somewhere here. Recent highlights include a new home, new baby on the way, new wife, new business. How do you juggle all of that? So that's kind of a lot of different things that someone would have to do at any given point. Doing one of them, you're doing everything at once. What are some of the ways that you're balancing life essentially?
Man, if I live by my calendar, for anyone that knows me, and if
Okay.
I didn't have a dialed in calendar, I wouldn't be able to organize it. There's no way. I mean, last year alone, we built a house, got married, hired people, had the baby within a year and a half. Like it was just boom, 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 boom. And if we didn't have that communication and the calendar of like, okay, this is what I have going on and this is what needs to get done, it wouldn't have worked because there's just too much going on to not have it organized. If you're just flying by the day to day and not know what you're doing, it's a recipe for disaster. It really is. So the number one thing is my calendar to a point where, it's kind of funny because people laugh when they see it because it's actually nauseating, but it's dialed in from 4 a.m. all the way straight through till 8, 9 o'clock at night. Like every single thing is in there from family time, sleeping, studying, working out, call
Gee.
times, meeting times, like everything. Church on Sunday, like every single thing is blocked out because if not, it's just not going to happen. Like if
Right.
someone said, if you put a meeting on my calendar and or you say, hey, we're supposed to meet Thursday and this was not on the calendar, it's like, it doesn't happen.
It's
Like
gone. Doesn't exist.
it's non-existent. So, staying organized on the calendar and open communication with Mia, honestly, is huge because there's so much family stuff going on too, and between, I mean, last year was like a blur. I mean, having to go pick out stuff for the house and then having to go stuff for the wedding and then still having all the meeting. It's like it was just boom, 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 and not a lot of downtime. That's another thing. Like I'm perfectly
Gotcha.
okay with that, but I talked to a couple people about, even like right now. I think Super Bowl is next week or 2 weeks. I think
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks. I went over to my father-in-law's house on Sunday for Sunday dinner, and he's like, "You watching the game?" He's like, "The game on." I'm like, "Oh, who's playing?" He's like, "What do you mean? It's the playoffs." I'm like, dude, I didn't even know it was the playoffs. Like, that's how out of the loop I am because I just don't focus on it, and it's crazy. I was like, "Oh yeah, Eagles are playing." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like, I just so not in the tune because I'm doing so many other things and different focus, and under that like mentality, I'm like, this is probably not popular at all, but I'm like, what are the Eagles doing for my paycheck? Like, what are the Eagles doing for my family? And I'm like, I got
Exactly.
stuff to do. It's different if I had nothing to do. It's like, okay, but there's so many more priorities ahead of that have to get done, and that the prioritization and the calendar is the only way it gets done. That's it. So that's
Now,
been
with calendar, are you constantly checking your calendar, or do you like review your calendar the day before so you know exactly what's coming up? Like, how do you stay?
I have so I'm booked out a week and a half in advance. So like next week's already booked, right? So I know what my calendar looks like going into the week, but I have it here actually. This is something I use I've been using this for probably, man, I gotta say like 6 years. I mean, you know Andy Frisella,
I've heard the name.
the MF CEO project or Real AF he has. I hear owns First Forum. He's like, oh man, you gotta look him up. He's awesome. But I started listening to him probably 6 or 7 years ago, and he has a thing called the Power List, where it's 5 things to do every single day and check those off, and like they have to get done. So like I know my calendar because I know what's booked on there in the meetings, but in the day to day, it's like those Power List tasks have to get done to move me forward in business and life. So it's kind of like twofold. I'm constantly checking the calendar to make sure like what's there, and my team has my calendar too. So it's a little tricky because I have 3 assistants. So like I saw today this morning when I came into the office, like Julio booked 2 meetings, Shayla booked one, Marianne's working on stuff. So they all have access to my calendar, then plus myself. So it's like I constantly have to at least check it every morning to make sure, like, hey, what's going on today? But the powerless task keeps me organized on a day to day.
Awesome. Power. I definitely need to look into that. After this, I mean, I could just go back and watch it, but after this, just send me a text with those books real quick.
Yeah, definitely will. I'll send you a notebook of the powerless. I'll send you a copy.
Awesome. You're the man, Joe. Your approach is very similar to mine. We both favor teaching at every opportunity. And I like the one book that you recommended last time we spoke was The Go-Giver, which I listened to on Audible. I don't really have a lot of time to read the book, but definitely a must read for any business owner or service provider. An educated client makes better decisions and is happier with those decisions when they have an expert guiding them, not a salesperson just to pitch them. So in honor of how much we both love education, are you ready for a little segment called the Rapid Fire Learning?
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
Awesome. So this kind of works a little bit like speed dating, where I'm just going to give you a name, a word, or a phrase, and you're going to give me back just something that phrase has taught you.
Okay.
So first one, we're going to do Joseph Lewis.
Oh, man, that's a lot. So for me, the first thing that comes to mind is being present. The reason is because my son's a junior, so since he's here, it became more. It taught me to be more present in the moment. So
Okay.
yeah, that was a good one.
How about Andy Frisella?
Discipline.
Discipline. Okay. What is that? Who is Andy Frisella to you? How did they teach you discipline?
So he's the one who created the program 75 Hard. If you've heard that,
I've heard of it. I haven't tried it yet. I've heard it. It's a little
it's
hard.
it's definitely hard. It's definitely a full mental program. Yeah, you get absolutely shredded. It was the best shape I've ever been in my life, but it's not a fitness program. It's for your mental, and that's just a byproduct of it. But when I was listening to him when I first started my agency, he's just. Can I curse on this, by the way?
Of course.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Just
fine.
no bullshit. Like he's just like does not care. He's like, get your shit done. There's no excuses, and just being disciplined and making those promises to yourself and getting them done. That's what he's all like. That's the biggest takeaway I've got from him, and the fact that 75 Hard taught me a lot of discipline, but the fact that people make a lot of excuses, and including I used to make a ton of excuses myself. Like the biggest one is I don't have time. It's like everyone has time, right? Like you say, like that's when you talk about like you have all these different things we have going on. If you prioritize it and make it a part of your daily routine, there's no excuses. Just get it done. Like you got to make the phone calls, make the phone calls. Like you got meetings, to get them done. You got to work out, go get it done. Like some days are harder than others, but you got to just be disciplined to yourself. And it's almost like you talked about the bitch voice. Like
right.
And it's like, oh, I'm too tired. Or I don't want to do this. I don't want to get out of bed. It's like, no, you got to overcome that and just get it done. Because the more you win that internal battle, the more disciplined you become, and then it makes you like forges you into a different person. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's like, if you're not doing this, what are you doing? And then kind of work your way this way.
Exactly.
Awesome, man. What about Mia?
Oh, man. Just love, man. Love. She just taught me just how to, because I'm not that emotional of a guy, to be honest with you. But she's taught me a different layer of emotion. And I honestly didn't know I could love someone, and my son, of course, as much as like when she came into my life. It's just a whole different layer of emotion that came into my life with her. So,
awesome, man.
That's the first thing. Yeah, first thing comes to mind.
Awesome.
Crazy.
What about Gary Minkoff?
Gary Minkoff. Oh my God, what a throwback. First thing comes to mind is networking, honestly. So networking, because he introduced me to Effie Zinkin, and he was a partner with Mark Echo Designs. And
Gotcha.
he, when I talked to him, he just seemed to know everyone. And like you could ask him person or different business you're in, he knew someone. It's like I didn't realize the importance of networking until I talked to him. And like I had an online business. I was doing a lot of drop shipping in college. I had a clothing line with my dad because he has the craziest paintings, and he like takes those, like they're all like not intentional. He's a painter by trade, but the shirts that get all crazy, he has them he sells them for thousands of dollars, the paintings. But
Really?
the spin-off of a clothing line, he actually got me introduced to Effie Zinkin to talk about the clothing and the processes and all that stuff, which is pretty cool. But and then one of the guys in the group in that the entrepreneurship class with him, he is crushing it, dude. I'm still friends with him. He's down in Del Rey making millions just doing stuff online and marketing, and I'm like, it's crazy. Just who you know. That's the biggest thing I got from him. So
yeah, man, your network is your net worth.
It really
the more
is.
people you know, the more of a business you could drum up.
Sometimes it's just who you know, not what you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I learned that jumping into real estate myself. Last one for rapid fire learning is half marathon.
Just grit. Just grit and consistency. It's funny you say that because on the way into the office today, I saw a 13.1 sticker on the back of someone's car. I'm like, damn, I never did the marathon. I'm like, I got to go back. I got to do it.
When did you do the half marathon?
Honestly, one of my friend Tom Meir, he's just like, he wanted to do it, and down in, what was it? Not Atlantic City. I forgot which one we did. It was in Jersey. But he's like, hey, I'm doing this. Now you're always up for a challenge. You want to do it? I'm like, all right. And at the point, I was not running at all. I was just lifting. I had no cardio. It was brutal. So we would run around the Manasquan Reservoir. And I remember the first time we did it, we ran like a mile. We're gassed. It's like, then we went back. It's like, okay, like every other day or something we did. And it was like, all right, 2 miles. And it was 3 miles. Then it kicked up to 6. And then it just kept going. And then the whole goal was to run around the reservoir twice before we were ready to do it, because that's about 10 miles. So if we can run around 10, I can mental out the last 3 and change, right?
Gotcha.
So the grit and consistency, because what I found with running, and right now I'm not running a lot either, but as I actually hate running, but absolutely the worst thing. I do not like it, but I'll do it if it gets to a purpose and it's healthy. But just doing consistently, because the second you stop or you don't do it every other day, it's like your cardio just goes down the hill. And it
takes forever to build, and you lose it so quick.
Yeah, and then just the whole goal of that half marathon was, I don't care about the numbers, I don't care how quick I do it, I just wanted to not stop once, just consistently the whole time, which I did, which was fine. I did it just under 2 hours. I was like, that's fast enough.
There you go.
Yeah, man, that was cool. You gotta do a marathon with me. We'll get that done.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Throw that in the calendar.
Yep, yeah, yeah. 4 a.m. run.
So back to insurance a little bit. So when it comes to
Yep,
Central Jersey homeowners,
yep.
where do you see the most glaring need for education, and what are some of the common misunderstandings about homeowners insurance?
That's a great one. I think it has to do with education and just overall education on insurance policies because I think some clients are misinformed when it comes to because a lot of people just come from the point of cost and they don't look at the actual need of the insurance and what it actually covers. And that's I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that as an insurance agency because we don't send numbers to anyone. Right? If someone says like, "Hey, I just want to quote and see you later," I'm like, "Well, we're not your guy." You know what I mean? We're just not the agency for you. We're all consulted because 99% of people, that's like me looking through a real estate contract with you. Like, I've never sold a house. You know, it's like, that's expecting me to do it one time and know it. It's impossible.
Yeah,
So, what's the difference with insurance? You're looking at all these different line items and what do they actually cover and what are these endorsements that can make a big difference, right? There's some endorsements that are 20 or $30 a year that could save you 10, 15 grand on a common claim that aren't
really.
on a standard insurance policy. So, when you go through and you educate clients on this or educate people, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know any of this." I'm like, yeah, well, when's the last time your insurance agent actually sat down and went through this with you? Oh, never. I've had insurance for 30 years. It's like, okay, and is that I would say it's a bad thing, and people do run their business how you want to run it, right? But we just don't do it that way, and yeah, chiropractic could do a lot more, a lot quicker, but I'd rather build it slow and steady, and my clients are informed if something happens, they know what to do, and what they're insured for, right? So I think it's almost like a not a specific thing. I think it's just overall insurance. People just are misinformed or not informed at all because there's just so many ways to just go online and get a quote or look somewhere and just get insurance policy, and they're like don't even know they're uninsured because never spoke to anyone. Right?
Yeah.
So, but if I had to say like one thing to make sure people look at, I don't know. I mean, the homeowners look at the personal injury protection, make sure they have health insurance that are properly covered, like their health insurance coverage, or health coverage, not health insurance, but the personal injury protection, which covers medical expenses in case you're in an accident in your car, someone else's car, or if you get hit by a car and go to the hospital. If that's not a proper limit in New Jersey, which the max is 250,000, right? The minimum is 15. But some, like I said, a client last week, he's like, I don't even know what that means. He's at 15,000. He's a business owner. Like that means if you get in a car accident and you get hit by a car and you go to the hospital, you have 15,000 of coverage for medical bills. It's nothing.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Um, so stuff like it's just I think it's just the overall education. It needs to be more in the industry.
Okay. And that's something you give to your clients when you're speaking with them and educate them on the product that they're actually
Every
purchasing.
time.
Excellent.
Yep.
Uh,
Every
now,
single client we meet with have a meeting with Zoom. Every single one. Yeah, it's a little blurry.
awesome. Now, speaking on common misunderstandings, what are some mistakes that first-time home buyers make when it comes to securing insurance, and how can they avoid them?
I'd say
Is
going
there any
online, just
one
getting a
thing?
quote.
Is there anything like one thing that pops out?
One specific thing, it's a good question. I wouldn't say one specific thing. I think it's more of a generality of going and getting like a bare bones quote. I think that's the biggest mistake. If you go online or if you, I can't name names, but if there's certain carriers that just give coverages A through F, which is your standard coverages, and that's all you see, I think that's a huge mistake because you can work with certain companies, get probably a nice chunk of endorsements on there for the same cost as you could with that bare bones policy. You think you have a great company online. So making sure you adjust those things and adding those coverages like service line coverage. It's $30, like 10 grand of coverage depending on the carrier, which covers your utility lines from your house to the street. So if a water line bursts underground, they'll pay up to $10,000 to activate and repair that piping for you. Right? It's for 20 bucks, 30 bucks. And I've seen that's one of the number one claims I've seen in the last 7, 8 years. So
Really?
it's a
Okay.
no-brainer. But if you go right online and you get a random policy, 99% of the time that is not going to be on there. You know? So
So it's not necessarily the insurance company is not trying to do its job right by insuring you. It's more lack of understanding of what people are buying. So they think they're buying, I have insurance and I'm covered for everything, when realistically they're just getting a very vanilla policy and it should be more tailored to things that they may need. Interesting. So how does purchasing an older home versus a newer home in like the $500,000 to $700,000 range affect the type of coverage and the cost of insurance?
So old homes, insurance companies don't love. So if you have a
Okay.
certain, yeah, if you're in the 1900 range, I've seen some homes in the like 1880s before. Um, I've seen even early 20s, 30s. The insurance companies, unless you have a full gut renovation, new plumbing, new siding, new roof, new electric, heat, HVAC, they're not going to want to touch it. Certain companies have a higher risk tolerance than others. So I can always find something for someone, but when you go down that hole of older homes, no updates, the primary carriers are just dropping like flies. And then you go to the surplus lines, which is higher risk, and then they'll write it, but it's going to come at a premium. So the older your house, unless it's been updated, generally speaking, the higher the premium is going to be. So newer the house, you have a new roof, you put a new roof on a house, it's gonna save you a few $100 right off the bat, just in a year on your homeowners. So you have to do it anyway. It works, but
So from
you
an
know,
insurance perspective, always better to get a newer home. But looking at, is there anything with lead paint? So in 1978, anything built before has lead paint risk, and there's a lead paint disclosure we fill out and everything like that. Does that ever come into play with insurance?
I really don't run into that often. The lead paint, it's pretty much mitigated at this point for most homes, but
I
it
would
is
think
an
so.
underwriting question. So if I do have it, they gotta mitigate that and figure that one out. But I couldn't tell you the last time I even had a house that came up with lead paint. So
Gotcha. I still
yeah,
haven't experienced it in my career,
yeah,
fortunately, but it's
yeah.
a
Me and
document
you
I get signed all
both. Keep it
the
going
time.
that way. Yeah.
So life is all about balance. Now, how can homeowners save money on their insurance without incurring substantial risk? And where are some places that they can shave costs?
Got it. So when it comes to certain companies you work with or certain brokers, I'll use myself as an example. If you have homeowners with one company and auto insurance with another, like if you're closing on a house and you're just looking for homeowners insurance, ask the broker you're working with, myself or others, to if they have the opportunity to shop out your auto as well if you have it directly with a company, whatever it is. But actually, I don't know if it's most. I know myself I can, but if I have homeowners with one company and auto with another, most of my insurance companies I can give discounts to both. So it doesn't have to be with just a single name brand company to get a multi-line discount and lower your closing costs. So if I have X company here and Y company here for auto, one for home, I can slap them together because they're within my agency and give the same discounts. So that lowers the closing cost. The other thing, I'm very fine line with that because I'd rather look for additional discounts and ways that I can save money on that way before I go to alter coverages. Because I never want to sacrifice coverages of what clients could need to save only a few dollars, right? If it's something substantial that they're like, hey, I really need to stay to this budget, I need to do this. All right, play with the deductible a little bit. That's fine. We could talk about the coverages. Some people just may not find service line important or water backup or additional replacement costs. They're like, I'm good. Okay, that's their choice. But I'm going to show them exactly what I'd recommend based on what I've seen in the industry. And if they don't want to move forward with that, we peel it off, right? Save them there. But I think the multi-line discount is one of the biggest things that new homeowners should look off right off the bat. It's just, okay, if I can save you money on your auto and I can save you money on your home, there's a no-brainer there, right? Give you multi-line discount, lower those closing costs, and then you save money on both ends, right? That would be my biggest thing. You talk about security alarms and that kind of stuff on houses, it really doesn't make a difference. It's only a few dollars. So
Really?
your
So if I
homeowners,
have 17 cameras and all these other, bells and whistles to secure the property, I'm just
nah,
overspending and I'm not actually getting
yeah,
coverage.
yeah. If you want to do it for the safety of your house, great. But if you're gonna do it just for the discount on insurance, save like $30. It's nothing. So it's not really worth it. So I wouldn't like if someone's like, oh, I'll get the security alarms, get that discount. Only if you want to, because you're gonna pay more for the security and then the monitoring than you will for the discount. It's not even worth it. Um, like,
Gotcha.
but yeah, hopefully I answered the question there.
Of course. So something that's probably on a lot of people's minds is how can we estimate insurance costs? Is there like a rule of thumb or a quick formula that we can kind of use just to gauge costs?
Not really. No, it's kind of a change in the industry. Rates have been going up. Anyone owns a house, they know rates have been going up. I got in the industry, I'd say the average is probably $900 in Monmouth County for homeowners, maybe 1,000. Now in Ocean and Monmouth County, I've been seeing closer to 2,500 a year for homeowners. That's pretty standard. So you think about that in 7, 8 years from nine change to 2,500. I mean, everything. I mean, that's in that time we had a lot of history in our country, that
Yeah.
inflation and things. So, and natural disasters, and God knows from California what that's going to do to insurance. I mean, everything that happens in the country affects other insurance carriers.
Now, can you walk us through the relationship between mortgage lenders and insurance brokers in Central Jersey specifically, as you've seen, and then what should homebuyers expect during the process?
Yeah, so that's a really important relationship to make sure that the property is covered properly, right? And then that the income ratio is good, and that it's done in a timely manner too. So if someone where we get kind of introduced to the mix, where I recommend is kind of during attorney review. Even though the house cannot work out, it is what it is. We have a relationship with the client. And then right after attorney review, when I meet with the client and go over everything, I'm asking for the introduction to the lender right away. So I can meet with them, get the information that's needed, confirm all the documents, making sure that, okay, what's the loan amount? Do you need a replacement cost estimator? What's the mortgagee clause? What's the loan number? Get everything. So the second they have that closing date and they need the insurance, we can get it ready. Mortgagee billed most of the time, which means going to the mortgage company to be done at closing opposed to beforehand. Unless a mortgage lender is like, hey, I need to pay beforehand and a receipt, that's fine. And the declaration page showing the coverages. So the communication is huge with the lender, because I've seen deals that, we don't have communication, things keep getting pushed back, and then everyone in the transaction is getting annoyed, and deals can fall apart if one thing is not set up. And you know that, you're in real estate. It's gotta work perfectly, and the team that you have is so important when you're going through a deal. So especially with the lenders, they're really important in the transaction.
And now I've had a couple clients who are either buying a condo or an apartment or sometimes a townhome where it's like a non-warrantable condo where they're having issues getting coverage. They have issues getting insurance. Have you ever run into that with clients?
I haven't. No. I've written a ton in condos, as homeowner associations, townhomes. What I would recommend is anytime you're buying anything in the HOA, get a copy of the master deed or master policy, because all the
Okay.
condo associations have to insure the exterior of those properties. So I can take a look at that and look through it and see what's actually insured on their policy and what you're going to need on yours. But I haven't seen one that has actually had trouble getting insurance, unless the property had a lot of claims. I've had that come up where I got referred someone that was trying to buy a condo. Apparently, that condo had a water claim last year, and then the client buying the condo had a water claim like 3 years ago, and the insurance company that they were going with, another broker, wouldn't take it.
Really?
So they got referred to me, and I found somewhere that could write it. But yeah, it happens. That's the only time I've really seen is if it's due to the claims of a specific unit, but not like a warranty or anything like that. So keep you posted if I hear anything.
So when you talk about insurance, it's kind of hard for people to wrap their minds around it being an investment as opposed to just an expense or part of their mortgage payment. Do you have any examples of where insurance changed people's lives one way or another, well, for the better?
Yeah, I mean, talking about homeowners, if something happens, like as a fire or a hurricane, you don't. I mean, you have insurance. That's the only reason you have a place to live, right? And shelter and cost for food and lodging if something happens or you're displaced from a house, right? I mean, you lose all of that. It's not just your shelter, but your sentimental value in that house too. So having insurance to rebuild that, I mean, it's huge. I've seen that happen. In investment, it's not on an investment insurance of homeowners, but it's more of, peace of mind that you have, which your assets that you're building are taken care of, right? And if you get sued, that's a whole other thing. It's like you need to have proper
Yep.
liability, because if you're building assets in a bank and in real estate and other different things, and someone slips and falls and cracks the head open on your property and tries suing you, and you don't have proper liability, everything you just worked so hard for can be swept away from you pretty quick. When you talk about investments in insurance, there's ways on the life insurance side outside of it that you can use as tax-free growth and investment on that end, which is nice. And you can leverage it for real estate, which I did for my
Is that
son, which is
something
pretty
you
cool.
is that something you offer to clients as part of your
Oh, yeah. Yep.
programming?
Yeah. So do that all the time. I work with a lot of real estate investors. I work with just regular standard individuals that just want to have an uncorrelated asset class that you can use the tax code within insurance to grow tax-free bucket of money that when you go to retire, you can leverage, or you can take loans against as you're growing into your life. Some are invest in the market, some are not, but it depends on what you're looking for. But I've one for my son that started when he was 2 months old. So By the time he's 20, it's done and paid up, and he'll have a massive bucket of tax-free cash he can leverage his entire life. Then when he gets to retirement, if the market just returns 8% on average, he'll have over $5 million in tax-free cash in there. And I put in 120 grand.
Wow.
So not bad. And he can leverage it at 2% after year 10. It's like, okay, I just created your own bank for you forever. Like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Right? So showing those things and educating, because I don't know about you, but Rutgers Business School, I didn't learn any of that stuff. I didn't learn anything that can
No, I did not.
teach you any of these things that, I mean, we learned financial, what was that? Financial management? Not financial management, financial accounting.
Yeah,
I'm like, I've never used that. Maybe some accountants have, my friends. I don't know. Majority of the stuff we learn, and nothing against Rutgers Business School, that's where we met. It was great for networking and a lot of things. But a lot of the practical things we did not learn. And these little things that I've been able to learn as time went on, and leverage tax codes and budgeting. Like, we didn't even learn about a damn budget in school. Like, I teach my clients how to even do a simple budget. Like, and no one does it. So
we knew debits and credits, though. They drilled that in.
Debits and credits. That's the important stuff. I think about the classes we took, and I mean, the marketing class I took, I learned everything on YouTube before I even walked in the class. And it's a joke, but that's the thing where I found that 99% of my clients have never done a budget, don't know any of these things that can help them get ahead. And then that's what I love doing, just meeting with clients, educating them on that. And that's what we've talked about before, educating, making sure they're protected. And then how do you grow those things that you're protecting, right? And stuff for your family, and making sure that it's holistically looking at that at a full, like from A to Z of what you need, right? I'm not just leaving parts out. So whether they do something with me or not, doesn't matter. As long as they have the education, then hey, work whatever you want to work with, you know?
True. Now, for anybody who's been listening to the episode and they want to reach out, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, Instagram's great, at Joe Valenti. Hopefully I have my last name somewhere on here. And then
we'll have a link.
And then if it's for insurance related, you can call my agency, 732-800-0741. My assistant Julio, he's on the call. He's on the phone all day. So if you have a question or you just need to get a hold of me, call that line and he'll take care of you.
Awesome. Now, last question. Who's your main client, and what do you wish they knew before they contact you? So I'm listening to this and I'm either excited or, I have some questions and I think I may need to contact you for insurance. What should I know beforehand before I reach out to you?
That's a great question. I guess what you're looking to accomplish and what your goals are. That's the main thing, because there's so many different things you can accomplish with insurance, right? And we just talked about a few of them, right? But what are your concerns? What are your goals? And just when I reach out, I'm going to ask a lot of questions too, right? I do a lot of introduction calls where I ask a ton of questions to uncover things that you may not even been thinking about, and give you a list like, hey, here's what we spoke about, here's a recap, and then we can have a second meeting to identify, to kind of accomplish these things. But we talk about ideal client. I've been asked this question before, and it's tough to answer because anyone can be a client of mine, right? Like, I'm not someone that says, oh, if you don't have X amount in the bank, or if you don't have this many houses, or this stuff. Like, I don't care what you have, right? If you have one car and you rent an apartment, I can help you, right? And so anyone that owns a house, has a car, has an apartment, has kids, getting married, getting divorced, unfortunately, birth, death, like any major life events, we can help with. So it's a very broad net, and business owners too. I brought on Christina on my team. She's she runs the whole commercial division for my team. So anyone business owners now, she takes care of, right? So we talk about who can we help, who's the ideal client. Anyone that has any questions about their insurance, just call. I'm happy to help. Doesn't cost anything for a consultation. Happy to help and just give some education and see what we can do from there with questions. So
awesome, man. You're the best. Joe, thank you so much for taking the time, jumping on the podcast, man. It's been great.
It's awesome. Thanks for having me again, Joe.